Get involved with the local farming community, and we're sponsoring the event because we want to really support this sort of initiative with the links with China and so forth, and also support the college here, which does a very, very good job. We're agricultural solicitors, we have a lot of clients in this area, and we'd like to be involved in the community around here and give our support.
And what sort of difference do you think Links East is making? Is it working out? Are we getting better links between us and China?
As far as I know, we are. I mean, I use the person I defer to on that, but she's done, I think, sterling service doing it. It's a great market, China, for our produce around here, and she's doing a great job.
Welcome again to Otley College. I just wanted to really update everybody a little bit about where we are at. I haven't met everybody here in person, and it's lovely to put faces to names at last and to meet you all, because I know there's a whole long list of people that I do need to meet and engage with. So I came to the college, we were just discussing this, last April, to support the college going into Ofsted, and then Ofsted happened in the May. And so you'll know where we are at with regards to that. Then shortly after I was asked to act up, and only recently I've been appointed as permanent principal. Now, the reason I put my hat in the ring to be in this role, I was blown away by the opportunities in this region and the collaborative approach that this region has. And I've come from the southwest, and I adore the southwest. I grew up there, and it will always play a very strong place in my heart. However, in terms of what I can achieve in my career and what I can achieve for the people I'm working with, particularly obviously of the UK, is the opportunities that we have in this region are incredible. And I've worked in land-based now for over half of my career, and I'm very passionate about agriculture, food, the whole food supply chain, but also how farmers have had to differentiate in their lifetimes to keep evolving because of the challenges that they face. So what we face now, as you all know, we have Brexit around the corner. We're not really 100% sure what that will mean, but all these threats do bring opportunities. But together, and it is about being collaborative, I do believe that we in the East can lead the way for the country in demonstrating how organisations can work together to support our community and our farming community to actually move the country forward and demonstrate how that can be done. Now, today we've been talking about Links East, and it's my first connection with Links East, so thank you so much, Annie, for organising this today. It's been, we've had wonderful discussions at this end of the table. Min has been giving me mini lectures, which has been marvellous, and I think I've agreed that you're going to come. Hopefully, we've agreed. We have a Agri-Tech week in November with Belinda Clark, many of you will know, and how important it is in linking the development at university level with really the applied work that Easton and Otley do for the region. The other aspect I'm very excited about is our governing body are now working towards the strategy for the future of Easton and Otley. Now, I have been blown away by the LEP in the region and the LEP strategy and the work that's gone into creating that. And what an amazing opportunity for us all to use that as our umbrella to decide the direction of travel that we can take. Now, Easton and Otley, because we are spread over the two counties and we're regional, we have already established very strong relationships with key partners. Delighted Philip's here because very strong partnership with the SAA, and that's developing, and also with the RNA. And together we're already discussing how we can develop education at various ages with the work that everybody is already doing, but it's that connectivity and understanding how we can work strongly together to ensure we can really meet the needs of the LEP and meet the needs of this region in terms of skills and what's required. So I passionately believe that Easton and Otley are perfectly placed to be that one place where people can gather, share, network, and we can bring our farming community in to meet all the various partners that we work with. So today has been very important. I am meeting hundreds and thousands of people. My diary is full of meeting important people. And everybody I'm meeting, there is such value. And again, allowing me to make that connectivity with regards to how we can move the college forward. So, Clark, thank you so much for bringing us all together and allowing us to network in the way that we have done. I haven't been able to network everyone down the other end of the table. I think I've managed to do half. But going forward, if there's anything that you feel that we can do as your land-based college, this is your college representing Norfolk and Suffolk, and it's so important that we bring Otley in particular back up to the same strength as Easton is perceived. I don't have any of the background in terms of, I can't have favourites. A lot of the staff at Otley before always perceived, because of the merger, that Easton staff are Easton staff, and that has been, I think, a bit of a problem. Now we're over that. Both myself and Ray are very neutral. With either of those, we're just very passionate about both the counties that we predominantly serve. There are more counties our students come from. But today is an opportunity for me in particular to take on board the really exciting work I know that the UEA is doing, and all of you are working towards, on how we together as a region can pull together and find ways in which we can use the opportunity to link to China and meet their needs. And it's so interesting listening to Min talk about the needs from China and what they're looking for. And I was very lucky, probably about 5 years ago, to go to Beijing myself on a similar exchange. And it's interesting, the British are very keen. We believe sometimes that we have so much to share. And I'm humbled that I feel that our Chinese partners feel that they have lots to learn from us, where I, having been to Beijing, realised, oh, God, they're so far ahead with regards to their passion and collective work knowledge, and how you bring the students together, and their standards of teaching are incredible, and seeing that for myself in action. So it's wonderful to lift it again, that link that I did have with China today, bringing those links together. So as a college, we've already agreed to exchange emails and to bring together some of the work that we've been doing. And I'm sure a number of you will want to support us as that relationship develops, and we understand through talking and discussion how we can bring all of the partners in together to work collectively on some projects that I'm sure that will evolve in the time that we start developing that.
As was mentioned earlier, I'm the estate manager on the rural Euston Estate here in Suffolk. I'm involved with producing root crop cereals, beef, lamb and pork. And I have a very part-time job as the Vice Chairman of Assured Food Standards, which owns and manages the Red Tractor logo. The Red Tractor was established almost 18 years ago now as a not-for-profit organisation. It's owned by the farming unions of the UK, so Scotland, Ireland and Wales and of course England. It's also owned by the Agricultural Horticultural Development Board, our levy body, the Food and Drink Federation and the British Retail Consortium. So as you can see, the whole supply chain is involved in this. Red Tractor is governed by 17 independent directors, but it relies on about 120 experts from right across the food industry, ranging from farmers such as myself, right the way through to representatives from the multiple retailers. And drawing on the knowledge of these 120 people obviously brings in a massive amount of expertise in animal health, welfare, the environment, and particularly in consumer interests. One thing that's really important to us, and the primary objective of Farm Assurance is now, and always has been, right from the very beginning, primarily to protect the reputation of UK agriculture. It allows farmers to demonstrate excellent standards on their farm. One of the other real important aspects is that it can ensure that we reduce the burden of inspections on those farms. And it does that by ensuring that the scheme is robust enough to satisfy the demands of all the potential customers of that farm. So it's really, and that's through the set of national standards that we pulled together. One other really key point, which is very much coming more to the fore now, it demonstrates the ability to assure produce right the way from the farm where I produce it, right the way through to the retailer's shelf. And that's key in ensuring that the food is safe and fully traceable. And from talking to other people around the world, it's very much envied by a number of other nations. And indeed, I went out to Australia 2 years ago, and they've got a whole range of assurance schemes that they've evolved over the many years, but there's nothing that ties it all together as one country's own brand, and that's the key. This is UK farmers' own brand, and it is one of the only mechanisms by which we can market UK agriculture PLC, as it were. So these robust, independent, meaningful audits, as I've said, right the way throughout the supply chain. And one thing that I really have issue with is the farming industry, and indeed the whole of the food industry, really doesn't recognise the fact that it's been such a phenomenal success over the last sort of 18 years since it started. We now have food with the little red tractor logo to the value of £13 billion on retail shelves, and that's a significant proportion of the food that is eligible to have that logo on it on the retail shelves in the country. So it's a phenomenal success that isn't really recognised. And one thing that we've done recently, because we appointed a new chief executive last May on the retirement of the original chief executive, David Clark, who started the schemes in 2000. So Jim Mosley, the new chief executive, has come forward. And indeed, last autumn we appointed a new chair in Dame Lucy Neville-Rolfe, so somebody with a vast experience from right the way from working with a retailer to being sitting in the House of Lords presently, so somebody with significant experience. And so we instigated Project Fort, which is basically very simple, future of Red Tractor. So we've had an inward look at ourselves to try and see where our weaknesses lie and to see where we can drive this forward. So we're at a pivotal point in the organisation's development now. One of the things that came out of this was to commission some quite an in-depth, detailed research. And that's shown us that sort of 65 to 70% of the UK shoppers recognise the logo. And if I ask many of you around, hopefully you'd recognise the logo. That represents about 19 million people of the people that buy food. And the research showed that 16 million of those people are actually positively influenced by the fact that the food carries some form of assurance. And it's not just the fact that it's got a Union flag underneath it, it's the fact that it actually demonstrates high standards in animal welfare and in environmental protection. So we all thought that this was pretty positive, but one of the key things now is to actually make sure that message gets spread wider and wider, and we've been actively pursuing funds from wherever we could potentially find them to have our own promotional marketing activity in the autumn. And we've secured a considerably less funds than we needed and we wanted, but the brand is supported by AHDB money, and indeed some of the retailers actually use the brand, the logo, to promote the fact that the product is assured and it's British. So the discounters, particularly Aldi and Lidl, have run significant advertising campaigns. There was the Easter lamb campaign for Aldi actually mentioned Red Tractor in detail and talked a little bit about it. So the message is starting to get out there to the general consumer. In addition to the consumer research that we did in the UK, in conjunction with the AHDB and ICM, we've carried out quite a detailed bit of research around the world, and that's demonstrated to us that there's an element of recognition, and it was interesting that this research wasn't just about establishing if people recognise British food generally and what it stood for, but the words such as sort of good quality, health, and family preferences, all the words that came out from this research to demonstrate to us that if we're pitching for markets in those markets, that's what we kind of need to support our campaigns there. So the general view was, particularly as we moved further east around the world, that the food was trusted, it was safe, it was of good quality, and that consumers in certain countries, including China and India, would be prepared to pay a premium for assured British food product. So that was all very positive. So with sort of a considerable amount of market share, so 95% of the dairy that's produced in the UK is Red Tractor assured, 90% of the pigs, 90% of the chickens, about 80% of the crops, 75% of the fresh produce. It drops off when you come to the sheep, which is only about 65% of the supply base that is Red Tractor assured. But what this does tell us, that we've got a significant proportion of food that's available for the home market and for export that is assured to robust standards in animal welfare, environmental protection, food safety, and that we can demonstrate how and where the food is produced. And of course, one of the questions from other parts of the world is it ethically produced? We don't really even think of that as a question, particularly for UK produced food in this country. Red Tractor spends a significant part of its budget in ensuring that the independent auditors are well trained, they're consistent and effective, and that we also ensure that the traceability challenges that we pose on those businesses that produce, process and handle that food is efficient, and all those audits are carried out in a efficient fashion, and that primarily that the food continues to be safe and of excellent quality. One thing that we're really positive about, and we sometimes challenged by the farmers who are Red Tractor members, that some of the standards go far too far. The balance, of course, is between what the retailers, the consumers want, and what the farmers want to do. And that's one of the real challenges that I'm posed with almost daily. But my answer to that is it's our reputation, it's our customer service, and it's a promise that we must continue to deliver on. The logo is more than just about the fact that it's British. It's about all of the standards that we work so hard to support. And of course, in our sort of the post-Brexit world, our vision is that Red Tractor will become the flagship for British food and farming, both here and in the UK and around the world, with world-class standards, independent inspection, and a robust compliance at its core. And I think that's all I've got to say on this particular issue, other than please look out for the Red Tractor logo when you go shopping, and indeed when you're driving our export markets overseas. We're very much at the fore, being able there to support what we say as British British producers is actually verified, and that's what we do.
The first thing to say is Links East, and who are Links East, and where do they come from? Links East is very much Annie here, and I'd like to thank you on our behalf at Links East for the work that she's done in putting these lunches together. We've got 4 on the trot. In reality, in the next, we had one last week, and we've got 2 more coming up in the next few weeks. So it's been a concentrated time from a scenario where normally there's 1 a quarter if we're lucky.
Yes.
Right? So it's showing. So interestingly, from Easton Otley's point of view, Ray was with us last week at the House of Lords.
Ran all the way down the Mall.
The interesting thing about last week's, and Ming was there as well, was that there were a dozen Chinese managers, I guess a bit like the Nuffield for China, if you think about it from that point of view, who were on a European tour. They'd been to Belgium, they were in the UK Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they've now gone to Estonia. They were guests of DEFRA, so we, in essence, DEFRA were the hosts for it. We're very pleased that Lord Iver actually hosted the lunch for us. There were far more turned up than were on the list, which was
30.
Which was quite a challenge in the Lord's dining room, I could tell you. But Ray was at that as vice principal, and I'm hoping as a result of it we're going to get some exchange visits between Easton Otley students and China and vice versa. And that clearly is part of the development that we want to do. So Links East is an organisation which is about collaboration and building relationships. It's certainly not for profit. It's there to basically pull some of those relationships together. And we're very pleased that Mark Pendleton, who unfortunately can't be here today because he's got a friend's memorial service, I did have an email from him last night, is basically our ambassador from that point of view. And Doug Field as well works very closely with us. One of our big projects right now is actually twinning Norfolk and Suffolk and the New Anglia LEP with the Jiadong province across in China, which is Shenzhen is the capital of it. It's the Silicon Valley of China. Its battery technology is absolutely amazing. It's the same, the education authority that's bought Ipswich Girls' School comes out from there. It's very involved with BT and ICT, and obviously the nuclear industry at Sizewell as well. So that is far more than just food and drink. It's wide, and that we're hoping will be signed in the next few weeks by the chairmans of Norfolk, Suffolk and the LEP, and a delegation go out to later on in the year across to that. And that starts to build those relationships, which you can see are starting already. The UEA, for instance, has got 500 postgraduates, 300 of them are from China. And Ming ran a project with some of his students. We called it Gateway to China, where we took about 15, 16 local produced products, food and drink. No alcohol was allowed on the UEA campus. And there was 150 of those postgraduates who did a in-depth analysis of all of those. And we've got a lunch at the Sainsbury's Centre later on in May, where Ming is going to feed back some of that information. People like Fairfield Crisps in this part of the world, Hill Farm Oils, etc., were part and parcel of that. So that's another stream that we're doing. So that's Links East. I'm very pleased that Annie's asked me to come on board. But a lot of us have been involved in these events over the years in terms of building a lot of those relationships literally across the board. And one of those people that's been involved and actually hosted a lunch for us, I think, is sitting just across from me here. And that's Robert at the NFU in Newmarket. And it gives me great pleasure to give you a little presentation from Links East on your retirement. So Robert is at the end of this week stepping down as basically he has headed up the NFU in this eastern region to go on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely.
So Chief Executive of AIC. For those who don't know AIC, Agricultural Industry Confederation. It used to be called UCASTA back in my day. I was on the feed committee of UCASTA. It's now based in Peterborough and basically is the front end of agricultural merchants, fertiliser manufacturers, feed manufacturers. It runs a lot of the certification schemes for basically the industry. So it'll be a great job, Robert, and I'd like to present you.
Bunch of flowers, Robert.
And you can see where these were procured. So I'd like to present you with something of a liquid variety.
Oh, lovely.
Wow, fantastic. Well, that's very, very kind.
And in due course, Annie suggested some House of Lords socks.
These will be worn on a Friday, I think.
And
Sorry.
Fantastic.
and I chose that for you, by the way.
This will keep me company on those dark nights.
And finally, you've got bullets. So well done.
Clark, thank you very much. Very kind of you. It's been a real pleasure to work with Links East over the last 2.5 years. I can remember the first phone call from Annie where she said, look, we've got this idea about developing trade opportunities and finding ways of creating new friendships. I said, look, I think that's exactly where we should be. And the east of the country is absolutely leading the way, and we should be part of that and drive it forward, take ownership. And working with the LEPs and the partners around the table here today, that's exactly what it's starting to do. And I'm really pleased to hear, as Clark's just talked about, we're very close to having a good, solid partnership in place from which to build. So I think the future for the east of England looks really bright, and it's thanks to the energy that's gone into Links East and the partners around this table, but in particular the energy of Annie and getting it off the ground, and Clark now driving this group forward. I look forward to watching how this grows and develops in the coming years.
Now you're going to host a lunch.
We'll have to
So finally, from my point of view, can I thank you and the staff for putting on a fabulous lunch. Really, really appreciate it. And thank Blogs for supporting us.